Welcome
to the Bring Me to Life podcast.
It's time to wake up
and shine on. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and waking up and shining on with us here at the Bring Me to Life podcast. I'm Shannon Shine.
Hello, I'm Selomon, and I'm here to just be a friendly voice.
Yeah, that's what this podcast is all about, is just giving you a safe space to learn about spiritual topics, and other things that come up in the world that we like to discuss. We discuss all different kinds of things here, really, but we focus on the awakening. And
that's a good word.
Yeah, I like the word awakening. We kind of covered it a little bit. I guess we covered more spirituality in our last podcast.
It was about like what's our view on spirituality? What do we think it is?
Well, real quick, do you want to touch on what you think the awakening is? Since we
I think that would be a great idea. And I think. So in my perspective, the awakening is the moment. Basically, if you've ever heard of the phrase the tipping scale or the tipping point or the boiling point, maybe even, it's where you come to a moment in life where you have like an aha or something major just shifts in your life. And I think the awakening is more of like a spiritual shift.
Nice. And
so for me, it happened between 2010, starting in 2010, and really climaxing in 2012, which was super intense.
I think it hit a lot of people in 2012.
Definitely.
We kind of touched in that briefly too, where we were like, the end of the world wasn't really the end of the world. Right. It was more like the beginning of an awakening.
Yeah. The Mayans said it's not the end of the world. It's just like a beginning of a new one. Which I think is like the awakening is like a lot of us are becoming more conscious of the truth of spirituality and our connection to the divine, because our society and culture and unfortunately a lot of like religion has like created this block between us and the divine, and the awakening is like removing that block and your connection is restored to the divine, to like spirit.
I like that. And you said you really kind of peaked in 2012, kind of cut you off there. And then what was some more, like, tell us a little bit more about your awakening experience.
Well, my awakening, I would say hit a big point when I had just a random panic attack, because I had good jobs. I talk about this all the time, but you know, that's what happened with me, is like I just had this freaking panic attack and I was breathing heavy. I had never had a panic attack before, so I didn't know what that was like. I'm a super like chill dude, like open to a lot of different things, and that just hit me really hard and I freaked out, so I didn't know what to do. And I had all this built up energy, and so I kind of just like had to do something physical. I kind of like built a snow igloo, but while I was building it, like I had all these thoughts flooding into my head, like, what am I doing with my life?
So this was 2012 or this was before 2012?
This was like 2010.
Okay, so where are you at this point in life? Like, how old are you when you're starting to have this awakening?
I'm like 21, 22, close to that age.
And you're just like a normal dude working, not really like...
I wouldn't say I'm a normal dude, because I've always felt like I'm, you know, different and I try to be unique and stuff, but I wasn't like meditating. I wasn't talking about all the spiritual stuff all the time.
Were you partying with your friends at like
Absolutely.
22?
Definitely.
Were you like, okay,
definitely. I still love to party.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you
and
do.
So,
you definitely do.
And so that was like a different kind of party, like going to the club, at the casino, like getting real drunk.
You're definitely more chill than that now.
Getting super drunk, like drinking a lot of beer. I can't even drink 2-3 beers anymore.
So you were partying, you were going to the casino with your friends, but you were being like, you were doing what like 20-year-olds do.
Just living life and
you had like
working.
like a 20, like you had a job, you were working.
2 jobs and
not
was
a college
making money.
student. I mean,
No.
School.
I got accepted to many of them and even got like scholarships to go to them. But I was, at that point, I was beginning to awaken to like what Sally Mae was and what like the government was and what loans were like. Luckily, I woke up to that right before I like signed up for one, because I could have been in like $500,000 worth of debt right now.
I wish I would have woke up before I got my student loan debt. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So
no, you're good.
You started to realize that loan debt is stupid. Okay, so
I was just a normal, like I wouldn't say normal, but I was like just doing life, whatever that was. I wasn't. I mean, I was spiritual, but I wasn't involved with it. It was like on the back burner. And I wasn't doing what made me happy, which was going on adventures and like exploring.
What was your religious standpoint at this point, out of curiosity?
I would say I was on the fence of Christianity.
Your family's pretty like Christian. They're very Christian in a good way.
Like both sides of my family, my dad and my mom, very Christian. And that's how I grew up. And like in the earlier podcast, there were some things that stuck out to me. And so as I grew up and got away from my family, I knew I didn't want to go to church because it wasn't anything that helped me. Like I prefer to spend my time outside. And maybe there are some services in churches that I would really enjoy, but just that specific one I was not enjoying. Okay. And so when I like finally got out on my own, it just kind of like got put on the back burner.
Okay. So it's like 2011, you're in your early 20s, not really going to church, spiritual, not really religious, but like open to experiences. You're ready to figure out why you're here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me more.
Well, I like I said, I really love exploring and adventuring, and that's something as a kid I did a lot of. And so growing up and being in my 20s, I was working more. And we had the beach, but I didn't really get into it. And also, I wanted to see the world, I wanted to see the country. And I wasn't doing any of that. And so this panic attack hit me and was like making me realize all the stuff that I wasn't doing that made me happy and made me feel like, I was living my purpose. So then I like started looking into all these conspiracy theories, got into meditation, found out how to open my chakras and had like a Kundalini awakening around that time. And then started creating Project Bring Me to Life. Bring Me to Life. It was supposed to be just like a documentary series on YouTube. But
of you and your awakening journey?
Yeah. And so I had
cool.
The first one is on YouTube. 2011 is on YouTube.
And find that stuff.
You can. The second season, I traveled for like 6 months and had the craziest adventures and got it all on film. But on my way back, it got cut off. So I kind of basically gave up. You know how that goes. People all the time, their work gets destroyed, and they can't save it. So it's very devastating. And I didn't want to get back into it. So I got rid of it and didn't want to do anything for a while until I came here, and you helped out a lot. So
I'm all about taking those dreams and elevating them.
Yeah. So the awakening was huge. It hit me like a panic attack, and I don't think that's everybody's experience, but definitely was mine.
I feel like it's a lot of people's experience for sure when they start awakening and realizing that everything they thought they might have known about anything is possibly wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's how I explain the awakening, is realizing that most people are raised by a family, whether it's your family, an adopted family, whatever. I've been in foster care. I've done all of the things. I've had an interesting upbringing. Mm-hmm. But once you realize that your upbringing basically programs you to be a certain way and to act a certain way and to respond to situations a certain way. And then the awakening for me was, and still is, undoing all that programming to, one, not care as much about what the world around me thinks and just live my experience. Yeah. That's what's more spiritual for me, is just living my experience.
Living your why.
My why. What brings us joy? And what brings us to feeling connected to being here in the physical. I grew up in a really, I want to say it's traumatic, and this is going to be me with a disclaimer. My family that raised me and that is still living is great. And I don't just say that because they can hear this, but I say it because they've really helped serve a part in who I am. Yeah. And I think that for so long I was afraid to talk about my upbringing because I don't want to offend anybody that is still here. But a lot of really crazy messed up things happened to me, and I think I'm ready to talk about it because I realize that it helps other people. Definitely. But it's also what pushed me to my awakening, and realizing that those really kind of fucked up experiences aren't going to make me or break me. They're going to teach me why I'm here in the physical world, and so I can serve a purpose here and learn from it. Yeah. And that's what the awakening's been for me, is connecting to that kind of spiritual connection. And like, yeah, it's kind of cheesy. People are like, everything has a reason. But to me, that gives me a spiritual purpose, to know that if I could make it through all of those wild experiences that make me a human, and that if we all can, and we can share them with each other in a different way, that's why we're here in the physical. And that's the spiritual awakening for me, is realizing the patterns that we have that have been passed down through generation, not just biologically, but through society.
I know it's been messed up for a while.
And breaking that barrier and just allowing ourselves to feel connected to spirituality again.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. And so now here you are talking about all of your experiences, helping people out. I think it definitely makes us a lot stronger, like going through all that and like being disconnected from our spirituality. And honestly, like having an awakening is fucking exhilarating.
Right. So when you went through your awakening, you didn't just like go on a trip and lose all your stuff. You connected with spirit on a deep level.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you connected with spirits and angels and how it led you. Like, you have had some crazy journeys. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of the reasons I love you and I love talking to you about all this, because I'm just like, wow, I get to like live through his stories and like see how he's seen the world in a different way. It's amazing.
I'm glad that you think so. And I didn't really get into communicating or channeling angels until later on. But my trip to Colorado, like the mountains, something about the mountains has always called me. And that's the one thing that came to me during my panic attack, was like, I need to get to the mountains because they're calling me. It just felt like literally like a string was pulling my heart to the mountains. And so I went out there and I like had some amazing like synchronicities. For example, this guy, I was hitchhiking for a while and I was thirsty, I was hungry. I didn't realize it, but I didn't have really any water for at least a whole day. And I didn't have any food for a few days. And I was like walking in these mountains, like almost passing out. And this dude picked me up and he's like, you need to eat. I'm going to take you to this restaurant. And he took me to this restaurant, which was super beautiful. It's like a casino built into the mountain. And they had all this food, and I just filled up on water. And it was amazing how good you feel being able to eat and drink water after you haven't had it for that long. So that was like... It's
just amazing to drink water in general.
I know.
You should drink more water, humans.
I'm going to take a sip.
I did every time you said take a drink, because I think it's so important and we don't hydrate enough. Anyway, so if you haven't eaten or drank in a while, it's definitely amazing. So tell me more.
Absolutely. So this guy like took me and he like fed me and stuff. And he like afterwards, he basically just like let me go on my own path after that. And so I hitchhiked to this spot that he was trying to tell me about, Nederland, Colorado. And he was talking about this mountain in like Eldora or something. And I was trying really hard to get there. But as I passed the road that I was supposed to go down, that same dude, like magically his car comes around the corner at the exact moment that I'm passing the street. And he pulls over. He's like, this is the road that you're supposed to go down. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So he took me, led me to the top of this mountain.
So wait, you met this random guy. He tells you about this mountain. You disappear from this random guy.
Yeah.
You make your way there. And
just I pass it.
Just as you're passing it, about to miss it, random mystical traveler reappears. Wow. Okay, keep going.
And he like personally leads me up this 3-4 hour hike straight up the mountain. And the mountain is like 4,000, 5,000. I don't even know.
So he's hiking with you now?
He's hiking with me now.
Okay.
And yeah, it's so beautiful though. It's crazy. He takes me to the top of the mountain and it has a lake in it. And I can't do anything because I'm still kind of exhausted because the food is still kicking in. The water's still kind of kicking in.
How many days have you been on this adventure?
So this is like day 3 or something. The first day I took a train I think I slept on the train that night. I got to the spot in Colorado, or like a close to it, and it was like 3-4 in the morning, and there was a porta potty, and that was the only thing next to the train station. And luckily, it was clean. It was like nobody used it at all. It was like
this mystical porta potty.
This mystical, super clean porta potty that I ended up like going to the bathroom in, and it was cold out. It was fucking freezing. So this porta potty kept the wind from like making me even more cold. And I just slept there for like 3 hours, just in my lap, like put my head in my lap and passed out. And I woke up and it was daylight, so I started hiking around and like hitchhiked to the spot that the guy leads me to.
Okay. So you're going up the mountain, you're hitchhiking up the mountain. It's beautiful.
Does
this guy just disappear at some point?
So we get to the top of the mountain and I can't do anything, so I pass out and I fall asleep, and I wake up and he's still there the next day, and he teaches me how to make a fire because I'm working really hard on it and I can't get it going, so he helps me build the fire.
You are a water sign.
Yeah. And it was like fresh on my journey of like hiking in the woods and stuff. Like it's been a while since I've done it, so he helps me build a fire, and then I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go climb up this other mountain, which was like another few thousand feet or something, and it takes me like an hour or two to hike up it. And I get to the top of it and I scream my lungs out because I'm just so psyched, and I'm like, I did it, I made it. And I felt like I made it because it was my goal, and there were all these bumps that I had to get over to finally do it, but I finally did it. So I scream at the top of the mountain, yeah. And I'm up there for a while. By the time I get down, the guy's gone. Packs up all the stuff and it's gone. I look at my stuff and nothing's stolen, thankfully, so I'm grateful. So I kind of hang out by myself and stay the night there, and then I hike down the day after. And when I get near the bottom of it, these people are like, hey, is this your name? And I'm like, yeah, that's my name. How'd you know? And they're like, some dude left you a note. I'm like, huh? That's crazy.
So random dude just left you a note with random people?
No. He posted it to like a post at the bottom. He like stapled it or like something. Tied it to like a garbage bag.
Man, I love your stories. This is one I don't think I've heard. Okay, keep going.
Tied it to a garbage bag. So I get to the bottom, I look at it, and the guy's like, hey there, sorry I had to dip out. By the time you're reading this, my team and I are going to be halfway around the world. And I'm like, what the fuck? What kind of team is this? Like, I don't even know to this day. I'm thinking it's just angels. But
angels. So was this like one of your first kind of angelic experiences? Do you know this guy's name?
Sorry. I'm going to say Mike, but I don't know.
I usually
it just feels like Mike.
Yeah. I've had some wild Mike experiences. Yeah. We'll get into that.
Okay. So that's like, that's how I come down, and I hitchhike to the airport, which is it's fucking crazy. They're building giant tunnels underground.
It used to have murals. I've heard
they still have
down.
Really?
Someone told. I've never been out there. I've never made it on a plane yet, so I have not been in an airport. Right. I think this is a crazy part of my story, but whatever. I need to get on a plane sometime.
Get on that plane. But the murals were there when I was there, and they are fucking crazy because it has like school children getting shot by people in gas masks. It's ridiculous. So I stay the night there, and then I just like ride the train back home. And that's like the end of season 1 of Project Bring Me to Life on YouTube. And so that was like, I think the awakening comes in waves, or it's like life. It's like a roller coaster. It has its ups and downs. And like, that was like the chilling point. Like after, it's basically like when the movie's over, and then it has like at least a final scene to kind of like
push you forward. It's like a leveling up experience. I agree. Mine came in waves. I feel like I like was in a spiritual point growing up, and then I would date somebody that was super not spiritual, and it would like take me out of it for a couple of years. Yeah, I would regress, or I tried to go to college. I mean, I graduated college, but that took me out of my spiritual experience till the very end, and then it like pushed me into it.
Would you say that getting out of it, when you came back, it was like more strong?
My spiritual awakening?
Yeah, your spirituality, or like you had a stronger desire to like connect more? Or
I had a stronger desire to understand life more. Okay, so something that people should maybe know about me is like, I'm this happy go shiny figure now, but growing up, I was like not. I was darker. I went through my emo goth phase. I went
good old goth and emo days.
Well, yeah, I was always that rainbow emo kid, though. Like, everyone's like wearing black, and I'm like, here's my rainbow studded belt, and everyone thought I was gay, and like that's a whole podcast.
That is a whole other podcast.
Anyway, but I went through that phase, but I was really sad as a teenager, and
Posting
I was
on
spiritual.
MySpace.
Yeah. Well, I was a spiritual kid. I talked about that in the last podcast. I started seeing auras when I was like 7, right after my mom died, and everyone thought I was crazy, and that's how I was dealing with it. And maybe so. I'm willing to admit that might be it. But, you know, it's helped me in such a way and made me such a beautiful person that I love it about me.
Me too.
And I had to go through the darkness. We talked about this a little bit too in the last episode when we connected on spirituality. Like, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can wake up to your spiritual self. And through my teenage years, I was really scared of my intuition. I've always had a really strong intuition because half my family is in spirit form, and more than half. I have a lot of guides and a lot of deep connections to angels. I'm really excited to talk about angels more because when I was a kid, I also talked about this in the other podcast. When I was a kid, I connected with what everyone told me were imaginary friends, but they had the names of what I now know are the archangels. I didn't know that as a kid. So why I was naming them these names, nobody really connected with, because I grew up in the early 90s and people were just kind of, I feel like people were more awake in the 60s, and then the 70s and 80s kind of happened and they got shook. And it's kind of like you're talking about the spiritual waves. Now it's coming back. The 90s were kind of like a rough, grungy period where like that generation that raised the kids were like, I don't know if I want to believe all this woo-woo stuff that my parents were into. And it kind of regressed us. But I think it regressed us so much now that we know how to teach it to the kids in the next generation that they're going to love it and like be excited about it, where our parents were scared of it because it was like taking them to levels they weren't quite ready for. So anyway, I went through that teenage phase, and then when I went off to college, I just wanted to get out of my hometown. I could not wait. I live in a really small hometown. I love it, but it is so close-minded and very religious.
You guys it's like in a bubble in the middle of a valley of the mountain. So it's interesting because like not a lot gets out of the valley. Yeah. Not like some people will come in and get trapped, but it's like stuff getting out doesn't happen as often.
Well, no, I think most of my generation actually got out. I think that's what happens, and is part of the problem is most of the younger generations leave. The ones that are, like have a brain. I don't know why I keep coming back.
Maybe it's more of just like the progressive culture. It takes a while for it to like reach this part of the mountain or something. I'm not sure. I
mean, for a while, its theme was be bold, but it meant be bold to stay old. Anyway,
be bold.
It was like nobody wanted anything to change. Everything wanted to go back to the good old days. But anyway, so that's what I grew up in. Was everyone wanted to regress. Everyone wanted to go back to church. It was pretty conservative. There's still huge Trump billboards here. Anyway, so that's what I had to grow out of. So when I went to college in Pittsburgh briefly. And it gave me an awakening because I was like, holy snap. I just went from being what I thought was a city girl to like literally living in a valley to then I jumped to Pittsburgh and was like, whoa, culture that's a real big city. Yeah, Steel City, you know, it was a culture shock for me. I was pretty sheltered after my dad died. So my mom and dad died before I was 10, and that lifestyle was very I like to say I got my hood smarts, my street smarts from my first decade of life because I kind of had free reign. I was a free range child after my mom died at 6 and could do whatever. And I started seeing auras and nobody really knew how to handle me. But then my grandparents on my mom's side got a hold of me and they were like, we need to tame this craziness, but not tell anybody how crazy she really is. Okay. I don't think I'm crazy, but I was told it for a while. In that if I talked about these things, these spiritual things through my awakening, that it would make everyone around me look bad or it would make them look crazy. what's interesting to me is I have an aunt that I'm actually really close to now. She's also into crystals. Yeah. She's really into oils. Mm-hmm. She's really into angels.
She's great.
But we didn't talk about it. We like read books on it, and she would give me crystals, but it wasn't something we really talked about growing up.
Right.
I was going through anxiety as a kid, and she gave me like a howlite necklace and or like a white stone necklace, and it definitely like helped calm me down. And that was kind of my introduction to crystals and started my spiritual awakening. And then I went through a phase where I thought I was a Wiccan. I thought that was the only way I could connect with spirits, and that magic of life was to be a witch. And then I was really confused because I was having these connections to angels and talking to angels and spirit guides. But I thought I was a witch. So I was also being forced to go to church, but nobody else in my family was going to church. Like my grandma would take me and my brother and drop us off.
That is interesting.
And nobody else went. Nobody else went to church until my grandma started dying. And then everyone in my family started going to church except my grandma, because she was in hospice and stuff. And everybody was like, okay, we need something to believe in, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. But I was always going to church. There was a while where I actually really loved Bible school, and that was kind of spiritual for me. My mom passed away when I was in a church singing This Little Light of Mine, and that was a super spiritual experience for me. And I think that that just shows like I've always been somehow connected. But in my 20s, to spirit, to angels, I've always felt this connection. And then I turned it off when I was like, so I went to college when I was 17. I graduated early, went to college at 17. And I got with this guy who was a virgin and had only dated a really, really Christian girl. But he was nearly atheist. So it was really weird. Like he had these kind of Christian-y views. He was in his, he was, I think 18 or 19, a virgin, which is kind of rare in America. I feel like.
Yeah, especially for a male.
I was trying to make it to 18. I almost did. Some ugly things went down. Anyway. But anyway, so I was dating this guy who was super kind of Christian-y, but atheist. How that works, I wasn't really sure. But I wasn't allowed to really talk about my visions. They freaked him out. So I turned it off because I was like, okay, people really do think I'm weird now. I'm outside of my hometown. It's not just there. But I was just in the wrong crowd, obviously.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will start to realize that after they go through the awakening, is that you're really not alone. There are a lot of people out there who are, have the same belief system as you do. Yeah,
I was begging for them. I had a best friend from like pre-K on and off all the way through basically now. And I was trying to tell her these things, and she always told me like, Shannon, you just have a different connection. You just see the world differently. And she's still to this day I think she's just now kind of going through her awakening. Yeah. I'm really excited about it.
I think, like a new wave is coming, and that's especially for 2020. And that's why it's so important for like people who have gone through it before are there for the others who are like, because it's a very confusing time.
So like I'm starting to get stronger. So something I also didn't mention was I lost a lot of people growing up. So I lost my mom, and then I lost my grandma, and then I lost my dad, and then I lost my my grandfather, and some other people in between there, my uncle and my grandma. So each time these people in my family are dying, I'm also getting more spiritually connected, especially on my mom's side. I've always thought that my mom's side, they don't talk about spirituality that much, but I've always felt like they have this deeper connection to spirit. And that's part of why we don't talk about it, is because it scares some of us. Yeah. But each time someone passed away, I felt like my gift got stronger. But then that also made me wonder if I was crazy, because I was like, is this a coping mechanism? And I started talking to some other people that also had the gift, and they told me, they confirmed for me that I was actually just really tapping into my intuition, that it didn't have to be like a traumatic coping thing. Like some people just really are a really in tune antenna. And I was willing to accept being that antenna. And I still am, because I want to be connected to those people. And then I started kind of questioning myself, like, am I only connected to these people? And I turned it off in my college years because it freaked me out. But then I started having these kind of like premonitions, and like the feelings I got when I was a kid that would tell me and warn me about things, like my guides that I talked to, they were coming in so strongly that I knew I had to acknowledge them, because they were warning me. They weren't like some people think they're schizophrenic and they go through these times when they're awakening and they're like, this isn't real. And it's because there's voices in their head that are scaring them. These voices are helping me. These were angels that had given me warnings when like a car was coming at me or if my brother was in danger at home. Like I started getting all these for other people. It wasn't just my family then. And that's when I was like, wow, okay. And I started looking into more spiritual things and archangels. And
would you say that have you felt anything at this point in your life? Did you feel anything or communicate with anything besides an angel? And like, how do you tell the difference? Because I feel like there are demons out there that people need to be aware of.
Oh, I have danced with some demons. Yes, people definitely should be aware that not everything that channels to you or tries to talk to you energetically is good, for sure.
Right. So how do you tell what is like an angel or a good presence in your life?
Well, for me, it's a feeling. I mean, I can feel, I don't mean to sound like bland and say I can feel between good and bad, but I can also see energy. So when an entity is talking to me, I try to close my eyes and do like an energy scan of it. So that's like a trick I use. I don't know if it's something other humans do.
I would say
I'm a human. It's like I just close my eyes and I scan the energy that I'm interacting with on a energetic level.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
if I feel hesitation, if I feel
doubt, I would say like a doubt is like a good, like
deceived. If it feels dark, if it feels yucky,
feels a little off. Even.
Yeah. I've also seen demons take over people.
Yeah.
Some people are like, that's not a thing. And I'm like, oh, I've definitely seen parasites in people. I've seen
some people are like too open.
And some people are amazing people and it can just take hold of them for just a moment. Cause like you said, they're too open.
Yeah. Cause they're too open for anything. Like some people are like, I just want anything to come and channel through me. But I think it's important. Like if you're going to call upon angels and communicate, then like do it with like a loving intent and make sure that the energy that comes to you has like makes you feel good about life rather than like sad or depressed or confused.
Yes, I agree. I think that's also why I started getting into like crystal therapy and energy therapy, because I did want to protect my energy. Yes. So just jump back to that story. I went through college, dated this guy, super atheist Christian dude, wasn't able to do spiritual things. I moved back home. He came with me. And then I started having intense synchronicities. When I'm in my hometown, the synchronicities are crazy. And they just lead me down these crazy spiritual paths. But I mean, when I travel, they do too. It's like when I come back, things happen. I think that's maybe why people keep coming back here. Anyway, so I started going to a different college. This whole time I'm in college because I think my family wants me to be, and it turns out they don't. So
you're back at home, but you're going to college at home.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm no longer in Pittsburgh.
And you're still with this guy?
For a little while.
Is this the guy who loves Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. This guy loved Chick-fil-A. He didn't have Chick-fil-A in his hometown, so he got really excited when we had a Chick-fil-A. The atheist Christian boy. That makes sense.
So you came back home after Pittsburgh. You brought Christian atheist Chick-fil-A man with you.
He was a good guy. He helped me grow a lot, but he was so not.
Just not your cup of tea?
Oh, definitely. Like we were so opposite. He's one of those guys where he liked my personality, but he didn't like my self-expression.
That's huge because self-expression is like a key thing in this life.
Oh, yeah. Didn't like the way I did my hair, how I wore my clothes. Anyway, I've had a couple of those. And
yeah, it seems.
They definitely pushed me to now be the colorful, very expressive person that I am.
I'm all about it.
Yeah. So I came back, started going to college, broke up with that guy because he started cheating on me. Anyway.
What?
Yeah, it was some girl that from my high school that one of my high school boyfriends.
So this is the guy that you lost your virginity to?
Technically, my consensual.
Okay.
I had another boyfriend that things went.
Because you said you went to college at 17 and you almost made it to 18.
I lost my virginity in high school because I was dating a guy and all my friends were, and I was under a lot of pressure, and he put me under pressure, and I wanted to make it till 18 because I thought it would be cool to be one of the only girls that made it to 18 because everyone around me was getting pregnant and trapped, and I did not want to be trapped here. So I was like, maybe the only way to not have a baby, since everybody's having babies really young, was for me to just not have sex.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for guys back then maybe to wear condoms. I don't know.
It worked. I'm still living my life.
So different guy, but this guy you're still with in your hometown, and you're going to a fresh new college.
Yes. Broke up with that guy. Going to college, working at a hospital, I start getting more spiritual because I'm seeing all these families come in, and I'm feeling the energy of the patients. So being somebody that's empathic, that's intuitive, and that sees auras, working in a hospital.
It's probably terrible.
Oh, it was good and bad.
Yeah, I'm sure you meet like a lot of special people, but
I learned a lot about myself as a human. I learned how to cook there because I worked in the cafeteria. That was cool. That's probably why I love like cooking when I'm in a good mood now, because they taught me. No one taught me up until that point. I'd eaten the sad American diet of lots of McDonald's and lots of fast food and Hot Pockets.
It's crazy when you look back and think like, wow, that was my diet.
I didn't get to learn how to cut a real pepper until I was like 19 or 20, and they put me in the pizza. We're getting real off topic here, but they put me in the pizza section, and they were like, cut up these peppers, and I looked at them like,
peppers up for this pizza.
How do I cut this pepper? And I started cutting it all funny, and the guy just looked at me and he was like, oh dear. And he taught me a lot. He's why I know how to cook now. All of them are. They were all really great cooks.
It's such a weird world that we live in, where like you come here and you incarnate from like a spiritual place, and then it's like everything here is fake and plastic, and the food's not even real that most people eat.
Where's our food? Okay. Oh,
where are the farms at?
Yeah. This is an interesting life that we live.
Why are people eating all this plastic?
Yeah. So I start working at this hospital. And they were feeding them like the food they feed people at the hospitals isn't good, guys. Maybe
they do it on purpose.
They do, because it's an industry. They want to keep you sick, so you keep coming back. And I started realizing that, and that's part of my spiritual awakening. And I started getting more holistic, and I was like, okay, I know how to cut peppers now. I can cut a
veggie. I know what it looks like.
Salads. I started eating lots of salads. I mean, even when I lived with my family that ate a lot of McDonald's, I started eating only the salads there because everything else was starting to make me feel really weird. And I would realize also that while I was eating that stuff, I didn't have my connections to the angels, and I really liked it. It kind of made me feel weird, but it also made me feel like special. And like when you're a teenager, you want to, like you said, you felt like you've always been special.
Yeah.
And I knew other people were dealing with it, but they weren't talking about it. I did have a superpower to get people to talk about it more when I got one-on-one, and I feel like that's still one of my superpowers. I love talking to you guys and hearing your stories. Like, send me your stories. They're pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm working at the hospital, spiritual awakening, and I get with this other guy. I went through I don't stay single long. It's like the universe throws these relationships at me because it wanted me to learn really fast. I guess it knew you were coming for me at a certain time. Yeah, it prepped me well. That's something cool, as though all of
you heard it. Shannon was prepping for me.
I was, because it taught me a lot. You would not have liked me as a teenager. You would have been like this emo.
Yeah,
bitch.
I mean, I was super shy, emo, awkward. Dude.
I mean, we were both doing the awkward, shy, emo kid thing, but like. I still don't think you would like me. I was super sassy.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, so I was prepping. But so I got with this other guy who was super sciencey. And the first while was cool. He was really into music. I was really into art. We felt like a good match. Did some photography. And then I started trying to connect with him on a more spiritual level. And it went downhill quick. He's one of the people that I don't think he's a bad person. I think his energy takes over him, this dark energy, and I know this because it hasn't just been me.
Them demons, people don't. You gotta.
There's some characters in life
protect yourself
where they're just that's their mission throughout the video game, is to distract people, and the same person has he's catalyzed 3 other females that I know of into their spiritual awakening, because they've all come back and been like, wow, you've really set the standard for what that relationship is supposed to do and like teach you.
Yeah.
And they've all thanked me for like showing them that it's possible to bounce back from that darkness. You can check out more on that on my Shannon with Shannon podcast. I did one that's like claiming your power after a toxic relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like this relationship helps you to awaken?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting. So I broke up with that guy. He wouldn't leave. He was a demon in a way. Like he was leeching until my grandma was dying. And Spirit told me, this is why I know you're here for a while. And we'll talk about how I manifested you here because it's a beautiful story. But Spirit told me that he was not the one. And I was like, thank God. And then
thank God.
Because I had really thought he was, because it like his name was really close to my dad's, and like then I realized I was playing that same control drama that my mom and dad did, and that sent me through
Probably
my spiritual awakening.
You,
yeah, I was like, I am not living that life.
Right.
I'm gonna reprogram this. So it sent me down my spiritual awakening, and I told the universe, like, I'm not dating anybody until I find a spiritual match, because every guy I had tried to talk to about anything spiritual had told me I was crazy. And at that point, if I was going to be with someone, I wanted them to be as crazy as me. So you must be as crazy as me. But you're also like very in tune with spirit and very connected. And I love that.
Yes.
And I told, like, I feel like I was talking to Archangel Michael, and we had a talk, and I was like, you need to send me somebody that will understand what I'm going through. If you want me to be this channel for spirit, you want me to go through this awakening process, I don't want to do it alone. Just send me a friend that can help. And I went through like a manifestation ritual, and we'll talk about like calling in a solid partner and friends and community when you're going through a spiritual awakening. That's like a podcast all on its own.
So many.
So I think we changed this podcast. We had an idea when we came into this, guys, but it turned into us
more of an awakening podcast, which
talking about
it's been a while, so it's good to get a refresher on it.
Yeah, so that's how it kicked me off. I went through like 3 really, really bad adult relationships that turned into this really amazing one that's been an awakening experience in itself.
Definitely. So how has your awakening been since like we've been together? Because it's coming up on 5 years now. It's been a while, and a lot can happen in 5 years.
So once you find your spiritual partner, if you want a partner, you can totally do it solo. Some people benefit a lot from doing it solo if they've been.
I'm a firm believer that we are, we're all whole in ourselves.
Definitely.
And I like the song that our friends Heartworks, when they say like, when people say you're my other half, I say nay, nay, nay. You're my other whole.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's like, I think, important for people to realize is you don't need somebody to feel whole. It is really nice. And I think it's important that you find somebody who can like share a lot of values with you.
I feel like you came because I had just accepted that I was whole.
Right. And I think that's what happened with me as well, is I was finally like letting go. I don't need a partner. I just need like a teacher.
Right. I was really just excited to be spiritual, and I was asking for the universe to I don't think I'd ever actually done that before. I hadn't asked for a community that understood me. I just kept asking for people to like welcome me, to feel welcome, to feel wanted. And like I've always been somebody that was able to be friends in lots of different groups. Like social standards never really bothered me. But when I started connecting to my spiritual family, it changed me. I now know I'm not alone. I know that there's others out there that talk to angels, that talk to demons, that talk to spirit, that meditate and connect to whatever the higher power is. Even if they don't realize they're meditating, they might think they're daydreaming, or they may think they're just lucid dreaming or dreaming, all of it. But I now know I'm not alone. And I think sometimes like we all get this deeper feeling too of like, I just want to go home, wherever home is. Like I'm in my home sometimes and I'm like, I just want to go home. And for me, that spiritual awakening, after all of that traumatic crap I just babbled about, it it reminded me now with you and with the tribe you've introduced me to. You've introduced me to so many beautiful people. You were like a catalyst for just allowing me to hold that like space. I think that's part of it. Was I was always in relationships where people didn't let me talk to people. Mm-hmm. They didn't want me to find out that there were other people out there like me.
Well, I think in their mind, and I would say maybe at the beginning of my like adult life where I was in relationships stuff, I was maybe similar or something, but it's like in that perspective, it's their ego coming up, like they're afraid of something. And I've been there, but I'm like waking up more and more to like, because we're both whole and because we've had like a good solid relationship, that like I don't need to feel that way because I'm like so secure in our relationship.
You also get really excited when I find out that there's more people like us.
Right.
And that we're not alone.
Like, I want us to connect to more people. I want you to connect to more people. I want to connect to more people in a sacred, spiritual way. And so, yeah, it's like human relationships are weird, especially in this culture where it's like pressured, a lot of pressure on relationships to like be a certain way or to like look a certain way or like.
Been in those.
So, yeah, it's been nice to like have this relationship where instead of like putting any pressure on it, we're just like letting it happen naturally. And we're so connected. I feel like we've been connected for many lifetimes. And
lifetimes. It's going to be an exciting podcast when we finally talk about lifetimes.
Yeah. And, I think I think when you can trust more, when you can send more trust out, when you can trust yourself, then you can begin to trust other people. And I think because we're a reflection with like what's going on around us in our physical world is like a reflection of within us. So within them, seeing you and like being mad or jealous or whatever, it was like something within themselves more than it was even you. Like there was something that they were afraid of.
I think they were upset also that they didn't have that same connection with spirit, because they'd all kind of also been searching for spirit, but it was like they were connecting with the darkest parts of spirit.
Yeah.
And it was like they wanted to believe in it, but they had never been willing to allow themselves to have experiences, that it was just easier for them to say I was crazy than to accept that they didn't have that connection. And they could have totally. It was just their mindset.
Yeah. Gotta open up your mind, open up your heart, trust in the universe.
But yeah, I think we should end this podcast soon, but real quick.
Yeah, try my kyanite, my blue kyanite. I don't know where it is.
I see it. We're going to get that kyanite for our upcoming podcast.
Good.
But real quick, would you say that our relationship has helped you in a spiritual way?
Absolutely. I was dealing with a lot of commitment issues and being very floaty, and like I didn't have a solid place to go, and I wasn't like I had hookups. I'd say I had hookups, but I wasn't the best at communicating what I expected from them, and so I feel like I probably let a lot of people down. So being with you has definitely helped me to open up to being more respectful, being more like honest and trusting in relationships. And spiritually, like I said, I was looking for a teacher, and you've taught me quite a lot about spirituality, and you're such a great channel. And so I feel like when you learn, I learn too, because you love to tell me all about it.
I like to teach people things.
Shannon will learn something and just be like, oh yeah, no, I want to teach people. So it's good to be around, and I'm grateful.
I love being a teacher. I love teaching things. I love talking about the spiritual stuff with people, because I feel like that's how we teach each other. Mm-hmm. It's just being willing to talk about it. Because the thing with spirituality is it's so different for so many different people that you could take little bits of everybody's different perspective and you could still continue to build onto it forever.
Yeah. Infinite amount of perspectives here.
It's like an endless amount of knowledge, and I love learning. Just as much as I love teaching, I love learning. Yeah. And spirituality lets you, rather than religion where you have very strict rules usually, spirituality allows you to just keep learning about life, and it's always changing too.
Right, it is always changing. It's always evolving.
Changing. Yeah.
That's why I know it's like a religion is hard because it's the same thing for thousands of years where nothing gets changed. And even Jesus in the Bible was like throwing a hissy fit at all the Jews because they were like so stuck on tradition that they couldn't get past their ego.
Mm. Yeah, we talk a little bit about that in the other podcast, and I'm sure it's going to come up again. But I think we've covered a lot about the awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to leave it at that. I'm going to tell you that you should find us on whatever social media that you love.
Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Spreaker.
Where else are we? Stitcher. I'm on Instagram. You're on Instagram.
Yeah, we're on Instagram and Facebook.
All of it. Leave us a comment.
Yep.
If you didn't know, on Instagram, if you leave us a comment of 4 words or more, it helps us and anybody, actually. That's on any social media. Fun algorithm tip. Leave your
4
friends.
words or more.
4 words or more. We're at PBM2L for the podcast. I'm at Shantastic Shine. He is at Selomon Official.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, leave us 4 words or more comments on our Instagrams and give us a follow because we want to help keep inspiring people.
Oh,
and yeah, until next time, I hope you stay awake and shine on always.
Bye.
Bye. For many of us, spirituality is just the quest to find essence or true meaning and to really just connect with a higher consciousness.
Connecting with your spirituality is very important in this life. By becoming mindful of all of it, you can realize where you are and if that is leading you to where you want to go.
Listen to the little simple things because it's those little simple things that are going to shift you vibrationally in such a way that will prepare you to become very intuitively minded and ready to step forward on the next part of your path.
I hope you can feel the love that's inside you, it's inside me, that connects us.
Thanks for shining on with us.